Hello, this is Signals and Insights, the podcast. I am Gabriel Velez, CEO of Crowd Answers, and this is the show where we sit down with the people shaping how businesses grow, sell, and make smarter decisions. My guest today took about, as usual, a road into marketing, as you will find, a state senator office, community work, and nearly 4 years in a quality control lab finding patterns in asphalt data and turn it all into a behavioral marketing intelligence firm with one mission: get small businesses to stop guessing and start knowing. Drew Renfro, welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me, Gabriel. I appreciate that. What a great intro.
That's cool. So let's talk about a little bit about your story. Most marketing consultants came up through agencies, right? You
Yeah.
came up through a state senator office and a quality control lab testing asphalt. How did that path shape the way you think about data?
Yeah. Well, it's a very unusual path to get to where I got to now, but when you step back and look at it on the bigger picture, it makes a lot of sense and it makes me exceptional exceptional in what I do now. Yeah, my start was in politics. I started with a local state rep. I was his intern. And at the end of the internship, he decided to run for state senator and asked me to be his campaign manager. And I told him I had no idea how to do that. I have no experience with that. And he said, just shut up, listen to me, and we'll go. And that led to a long career in the state legislature and having a front row seat at seeing how our community leaders and people of power, how they're making decisions. What factors do they take into account? How do they decide where to send resources? And it really exposed me to how to make tough decisions with complex data. And yeah, and from there I took a break and went out to Salt Lake City to do some fundraising for a small startup called Fund
Hello?
Hero. Oh, a small startup called Fund Hero. And that really exposed or really exposed to me why people decide to give you their money, why people decide to what's the difference between a letter that raises $500 and a letter that raises $10,000. There's little things you can do in your messaging, in how you say things, in the foundations of a campaign that affects the bottom line. And so that fascinated me, and I said, all right, I'm starting my own thing. I'm starting my own firm, political firm, as a 28-year-old man. um However, I happened to start that firm the same year that COVID hit. And COVID really, it's hard enough to start a new business on your own, but to throw COVID in the mix, it kind of put me on my behind for a moment. And and so, like most people, I had to pivot and I had to get bills paid. So I worked for a construction company doing their quality control. Now I don't know if any of your listeners are familiar with quality control and paving, but really all it is taking a piece of asphalt of road and measuring it for density, for compaction, for asphalt levels. And so I really started to see, to process all these data points that come into understanding what makes quality road. I really opened my minds to, oh, we have this amazing new tools to process data and to intake assumptions and intake behavior and then simulate it and get some answers and start making some predictions. And that was my introduction to predictive marketing and machine learning algorithms. And so I took the political experience with the fundraising experience with the managing thousands of data points experience and created what is today Vira creation and strategy. And so what Vira does isn't anything new. Businesses do use predictive marketing to make decisions all the time. But what I'm passionate about is grabbing that power, grabbing that amazing predictive ability and making it available to small businesses. And that's the best part of my job. And that's kind of the route I got here. And I'm really glad I did, because I don't know if I would have got here another route. And I think the unusual path gives me the advantage amongst other marketing consultants in that I'm a little unconventional. Um, I made it a point for Vira to have the name creativity in it for a reason, because everybody is looking at data, and if everybody is looking at the same data, how do you separate yourself? And that's where the value of creativity comes in. So yeah, it's a strange path, but I'm absolutely in love with what I do, and I'm excited for the future.
Thank you for sharing your story. I think that clearly point out to a really unique, like a signature, right? And I like that you got this approach and this knowledge for the small business. So let's talk about this. The whole headline, right? Is stop guessing, start knowing.
Correct.
What does behavioral marketing intelligence actually mean for a small business, and what it is replacing?
Right. Well, that's an excellent question. Um, so it's the difference. Behavioral intelligence is separate from demographic intelligence. Instead of knowing you're 5'11" male in Boston, I know that you are more of a practical purchaser, or you're more of an ethical buyer and you care about, ethically sourced behavior. That though Caring about ethically sourced products is hard to find when you're just looking at hard demographic data. So in my opinion, behavioral marketing more looks into the psychology of your consumers rather than them as a number, or as a just another demographic.
Yeah, yeah, that's great. And let me push a little. A small business owner could say all this data and modeling sounds expensive and academic, and they just need more leads this month. Why isn't behavioral profiling a luxury a small business can skip?
Right. Well, it's the idea of, if you could be, it's better to be a laser than a flashlight. So if you're a small business and you have limited resources, you have to make some tough decisions on where to point those. And so if I'm able to hand you a really strong segment that you can focus your efforts on, that's going to make your marketing dollars go much farther than doing a buckshot and hoping for the best. And so, yeah, uh, I think I think what I offer is an ability. Most of my clients end up sticking around for a lot, and it's not just marketing problems that Vira solves. We also solve pricing problems. So if a client of mine decides, I think I'm on the lower end of what I charge for my services. I want None of my peers really sharing prices. I need a really good guess on how to raise my prices, and how do I facilitate that? How are my customer base going to react to my prices going up? What could I do to mitigate that? And that's where behavioral intelligence shines, is understanding, that your main client's really going to have a hard time. What is the best way to frame this so that they will understand and stick with you and you can retain your customers? So, yeah, I think this is the direction I see marketing going into the future. I mean, right now we live in the information age. And right now we have amazing tools to go through all this information. And it's part of my job is trying to keep up, because as you may know, Gabriel, this stuff, uh, data science changes almost every week. So yeah, I'm excited to see where we go with understanding behavior, especially with predictive marketing. You're seeing predictive markets starting to become a buzzword with big companies like Polymarket and Kalshi, and they all are in the science of making strong predictions of the future. And I'm hoping that more small businesses will be open to using some of that technique, because it's not too complicated. It is accessible, but we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see. Nice to hear about Kelsey, And here in Florida, I think only Hard Rock has permissions to basically do like a to be downloaded and you can place bet. But
Yeah.
Kalshi is positioned it in a different way. So basically you can download it. And I don't know why, because it's not betting, sports betting, but it's more about, you say, like it's more about predicted markets type of platform. And the position in is a little bit better. And that's interesting how all this behavioral science knowledge is coming up from people, and basically we can get advantage on that for different purposes. So
I can
yeah, go ahead.
I can, if I can add to that, one thing I'm upset. That's the If your listeners can get one thing from Drew Renfro, it's that I love behavioral science. And one book that really opened my eyes was a book called Behavior by Robert Sapolsky. And in it, he addresses about all the different factors that go into why someone behaves the way that they behave. It starts, where they were born, what culture they were born into, what was their prenatal condition, how was their upbringing, what is their nutrition. There's so many different inputs that go into the reasons that we are the way that we are. And and now, more than any time in written history, we have amazing tools to go through a lot of data and really understand people with some depth. And I find it encouraging, especially in science. We're learning a lot of really cool things, um in medicine and quantum mechanics. It's really, in my opinion, it's a fun time to be a data scientist.
100%. And also very important to to understand the data as well, and be able to connect the dots, right? Because sometimes people, they don't have the experience or the knowledge to really understand what is going on. And that's why in some cases, for example, qualitative researchers that I have been talk with, they are a little bit cautious about AI, because they say, AI tools won't catch the insight. And they are true in a way, right? Because of course you need this knowledge.
Yeah.
But on the other hand, if they're like a savvy enough using those tools, they could teach the tool and train the tool in order so the tool can recognize those patterns as well. So it's
Right. Yeah.
interesting. So yeah, and let me ask you, every business owner thinks they know their customer, right? If we ask them, they will say, yeah, usually a demographic like women, 35 to 55, homeowners, right? But what almost missing from how they describe, um, or what is missing on the way that they describe that your solution, your tool, your platform can help them, right? What? Yeah.
Well, yeah. I mean, all right. So say if you're a venue, and you're dealing with ticket sales. This is a really fun topic, and a fun project that I've worked on recently, is understanding what's gonna sell out, what's gonna do well, what time of season is it gonna do well.
So
And so,
prediction.
yeah, prediction. And so, when you're able to, people have these plugins, people sit on this data, especially like CRMs, or people sit on this data. And it's one thing to just look at it and be like, oh, okay, yeah, that did well, that did well, that did well. But if you plug these into some of these amazing machine learning algorithm, or a simulator or something like that, you can really start to make some creepy predictions about, what's going to sell out, what's going to be popular, when it's going to be popular, and, when do people want to hear about it, and how do they want to hear how do they want to hear how it's described. Even and there's, on the flip side, even besides for external data, there's a ton of resources available for knowing what your competitors are doing. And there's solid ways to measure what everybody else is doing and what's working for everybody else. And so now that so much is online, so much of our behavior and our conversations are online, there's resources everywhere to process. There's there's thousands upon billions of data points out there. But as data scientists will know, it's the Pareto principle, right? You get like 20% of your insight from 80% of the 80 or 20% of your insight from 80% of the work, from 80% of the data. And it's just, I think having access to tools that process data is something that any business can do, and I'm looking forward to helping more businesses do that.
Yeah. And I imagine that a lot of your best work probably isn't public yet or is, basically confidential. So I love to hear a real one, of course, what you can
Sure.
share. If you can tell me about a client who came maybe skeptical about this data-driven marketing and walk out a believer.
Okay. I've got a good one for you. One of my first clients was the client, he purchases jewelry stores, and he had recently purchased a jewelry store in the Diamond District in Boston. Now the gentleman, the client, he has been in the diamond business for longer than I've been alive. And before that, his father was in the diamond business, and it's really a family thing. And so, as a marketing consultant, it's really hard to walk in that room and try to tell him, "Hey, here's an opportunity for you," because he's been doing fine
What you gonna
since
teach me?
he's
Yeah.
been doing fine since the 90s.
Mm-hmm.
However, what I was able to pull out from the data was the new demographics that was the people that were getting married in this particular area, all mainly millennials. They cared about different things than the traditional diamond buyer cared about. One of those things which is what I referred to earlier, was ethically sourced diamonds. Another thing that I pulled out was they really don't care if it's a real diamond or a lab grown diamond. They would prefer the ethically sourced diamond. And so in the past, that would not be in the past. Every diamond is sold away with the pomp and circumstance and the type of, you see the same colors on every jewelry store website. How, but so that works, that's great. But if your goal is to stand out, if your goal is to get an advantage in a particular demographic that's only going to get larger, you really have to understand what they care about. And so I was able to give him a document that really showed how to access that millennial purchaser, that 35 to 45-year-old buyer who is less concerned about buying the most expensive diamond and probably less resourced than past generations, and what type of messaging really hits home for them. And that was a real opportunity to stand out that nobody else in that particular diamond district was doing it. And so that that was probably the big moment where people were able to see, okay, here's a problem, here's how I would typically think of it, let's throw some data on it, a little bit of creativity, and see if we can stand out. And I think we did so there.
That's an amazing example, and I see why you have the C included in your company name. That's for a reason. Yeah,
Yeah.
because what you want to have as an owner is basically a clear differentiation, and this differentiation should have a real impact in how you're being perceived across your potential customers. And yeah, I know, diamonds only have the purity, I think, and strength, and but you never think about how it was sourced, how smart it is, right, for a conscious buyer, And yeah, that's basically, you can build this case and tell other people about that. And I am curious about that. How do you find clients? What is the best way clients find you and understand how you can help them in this way, for example?
Yeah, mainly referral for me. My goal is not to be. My goal is regional dominance right now. So I'm in the Springfield area of Massachusetts. That's Western Massachusetts for your listeners. And there's nobody in the region that offers what I offer. And so right now I'm focused on referrals, meeting people face to face. I've been around, I've been in politics, people know me, and I'm back with a new project. So really, my main source of new customers has been referrals.
Yeah,
But
that go ahead.
doing things like chambers of commerce. I am a member of BNI Business Network International, I think it's called.
I used to
Um,
be part of them
oh, okay, you
in
did BNI.
here in Miami chapter. Yeah, I remember it was like a 50% of attendees were lawyers, right? Trying to not compete among them. But it was a great networking opportunity, right? It was pre-COVID because, during COVID, all these things stopped a little bit. So, but yeah, it's a nice organization, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just Gabriel. I'm just lucky enough to have a strong enough network to where I can. Because right now, if somebody were to drop 20 people, 20 customers on my desk right now, I'd have to turn away half. So right now, it is just me. I'm looking forward to growing and bringing on a couple new people that I can teach my ways. But right now, it's just me, and I do 4 to 5 projects a month. And yeah, I'm pretty happy with that right now until it's time to grow.
That's great. And the industries that you focus on, they belong to a specific industry, or they are from multiple industries?
Right.
Yeah.
So I build consumption behavior profiles. And once I do one for a business, I'll usually go out and do one for multiple businesses. Um, right now, I'm navigating wealth management firms, financial advisors who are looking to fill up their portfolio, or fill up their caseload, I should say. Um, Also, car dealerships, because car dealerships they keep a CRM, a customer resource manager, and they have really structured data that I can really examine, who's doing what and how they could be doing better. Another one is restaurants. I've actually sold a couple reports. The big focus for restaurants is creating a pattern or creating a habit of getting your customer, making it, get into that third and fourth visit, to where that, then you have them hooked for life.
Loyalty.
In the restaurant industry, they say if you can get past 3 visits, then you'll have a customer for life. So, I've done a bunch of those, but really I've been getting, actually this past month, I've been getting a bunch of, uh, pricing, people want pricing simulators. A lot of people are worried with when the economy gets crazy. A lot of people start to think, should I raise my prices? Am I going to have to, inflation goes up every year, right? 2.4% or something like that. How do I raise my prices? How far can I push it? And so I've been selling some pricing strategy lately too. So I haven't, I haven't, I know it sounds like the wrong thing to do. If you were to go to business school, people say find a niche and stick to that niche and dominate that niche. But what I love about my job is that it's something new every day. I just had, I'll just say, another thing is when people are getting ready to uh, start a business and they want to make sure demand is in the area. I got a customer who he wanted to start an office space specifically for therapists. And because of therapy's role in my life, it was an excellent opportunity to help him succeed at this at this business. Just so happens to find out, Massachusetts has the densest population of therapists in the country. We are in the 90th percentile of professionals who identify as or who do psychotherapy. So I was able to give him a lot of really good news and how to best present that and how to and what those therapists would need and be looking for. And so that's great. I was able to. There's a guy he's excellent at what he does. He's a great therapist, but he didn't even know where to start with the research. And so I was able to provide that some high quality research to him pretty easily. And so that's what I kind of love about what I do now is that it's a different challenge every day.
That's great. And one thing that happened, and that's why I picked this niche, and I have been working in market research for 20 years, is that every day is a different one, and every day is a new. Just working with different clients, different problems is never boring. It's always fun, and I share that passion, and I love that you have that as well. So basically we are never bored. I like it. And also the ability that you provide all these small business owners with those tools that they
Yes.
can use to become more successful. So right now, third party cookies are collapsing, ad
Oh yeah.
costs keep climbing, and AI is putting real data tools with the reach of tiny businesses. This, is how it's changing. Look out 3 to 5 years. What does the small business, um, or what will do the small business that wins in a different way? What do you think that they could be changing in 3 to 5 years?
Yeah, I mean, if anything, we're gonna hammer down on using the data that's available to you. If third party cookies go away, then you know I mean, I read first party signal. That's the strongest signal you can have, and if you learn how to manage that better than anyone out around you, you're gonna have an advantage regardless of third party cookies. So yeah, that is an interesting move. How that's changing and going slowly going away. But yeah, that reassures me that that's even more important to work with that first party data and know how to use it in a right way, in an efficient way.
Yeah, I loved also what you mentioned about the three visits that make a customer become loyal to a restaurant, because I think that part of around loyalty, understanding how that loyalty is built and improve in your line of business is key, because basically it's the lifetime value what you're looking to pursue. That way, basically, clean the air of competitions, right? You just focus in this indicator and the loyalty. So yeah. So let me ask you: you left a stable lab job in January 2025, if I am right, to bet into Virax full time. What's the part of this work that made you glad you took that jump?
Right. Well, full disclosure, when I left my last job, it wasn't so much of a deciding to leave. They were more like, "Hey, we need you to focus here," and I couldn't. I was obsessed with this, so it was more. Let me be honest to my last employer. It was more of a mutual decision to break up, but but um just the way the universe worked, it really things really fell into place really perfectly. And I was a little hesitant. I had one foot in the door with Vira, and I wasn't sure, is this gonna work? Are people gonna try it? And it took a little bit of a push to really jump and do it. And I would just say, if anybody is listening to this, if they are thinking about doing it and taking the leap, it's an amazing feeling. And if you grow every single day, you haven't made the wrong decision. Because regardless of what happens with this business now, I've built up a skill set that is useful to society, useful to businesses. And so this has been Vira is 3 years old as of April, and this has been the most growth as a 37-year-old man I've had in my whole life. Personally, just dealing with the highs and as you may know, dealing with the high highs and the low lows, and it's been an incredible experience that I would recommend to anybody who can handle the torture.
Drew, I think that has been, a great conversation, and that's exactly the type of conversation we want to have here. Your story, basically, that had been across different companies and paths, and ended into this entrepreneurial role and consultancy, helping other small business, is very motivating, and also because it's built in your inner call, inner purpose, and it doesn't matter what gonna happen tomorrow, but basically you have the positivity and the passion to help businesses and things align itself. So I really appreciate your time here and basically being part of this podcast. Let me ask you something: where people can find you and Virax if they want to learn more, or reach out, or basically get a report from you for their business.
Great. Well, thank you for those words, Gabriel. I really appreciate this, and I appreciate the opportunity to sit down and have this conversation. This was fun. I haven't done a podcast before, so this is thank you for this experience. If anyone's interested in either working with me or they need some work done, you can find me at viracs.com. That's VIRACS.com. I send everybody that way. It's got my email on it. That's the best way to reach me or see me.
That's perfect. Thank you very much. And that's a wrap for this one. Huge thanks to Drew Renfro for showing how an unconventional path turns into an unfair advantage, and for making the case that small businesses don't need bigger budgets, they need better listening and understanding of their clients. If
Well
you
said.
got something of it, do me a favor, hit subscribe and do a like. And yeah, we'll see you in the next episode of Signal and Insights. Take care, everybody. Bye bye.